Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to yet another show of the Book Talkies. We have our guest speaker, Premlata Poonia, who has her life mission to change one girl at a time. Premlata and Prem, people who are close to her call her, she runs a foundation called as Hamari Laado, and I'll let her speak about it. But, ladies and gentlemen, just focus on the vision that she has for Hamari Laado. It says, inspire and enable girls with skills and confidence to achieve. On this note, Premlata Punia, welcome to the Book Talkies.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Prem, you are a author of your book, which we will get into, but you are a fantastic human being. We would like to know, and our audience would also like to know, who is Premlata Punia? What is Hamari Laado? And what exactly Hamari Laado doing to make that change into every girl's life? Over to you.
It's, two, three different questions. I'll start with a little bit about me. I grew up in Rajasthan, northwestern Rajasthan, which is tip of Rajasthan, along with the India-Pakistan border. Just 7.5 kilometers from the border. My grandparents moved during the partition of India in 1947. Great grandparents and my grandfather moved, and they walked 20 kilometers and settled in this village, which is where I was born. I grew up there. I studied there until my early education, till middle school. We didn't have schools after that, so my father moved us to a close by town, which is where I went to high school. There was one government school for girls, and I went there. Then we moved to Jaipur. I did my college here. Then I went to Delhi, did my master's, worked in Punjab, worked in Jamshedpur with Tatas, moved to the US to do my MBA at University of Michigan, and lived and worked in the US for a decade, and then moved back to start Hamari Laado. And the reason I started, and the mission is all connected with that. The research proves that, and in my journey, I realized I did not meet girls like me. You don't meet girls from rural areas in any of these places I mentioned, whether you go to a premier business school in India or in the US, or you worked in corporate environment. You don't meet kids who come from Hindi medium schools. You don't meet kids who come from government schools, right? You don't meet kids who come from arts background unless you've gone to St. Stephen's. Even if you come from small town, your parents would have worked really hard to send you to Kota to prepare for an engineering exam, and you made it to engineering college, and then you would have somehow made it to an MNC. Of course, India has only last 20, 30 years, we have seen this culture of, private corporate organization. But in none of these journeys, I realized I don't meet people like me. Like, even if, India is so layered, but you realize, so I realized, why did all these dots connect for me? Someone like me to come this far, why did this happen for me? And then that made me think, what am I going to do about it? There's a huge amount of not guilt, but there's this thing you live with. Girls who I went to school with, they dropped out after 8th, then in the little town Mandi we call after 12th, then Jaipur. Like, every place you just keep moving further and further, and you had done something special to get there. Of course, your parents work hard and you work hard, but so many people work hard, right? It's not like we're the only one. So just the life, you're fortunate that the dots connected. And for me, it was, how do I help connect dots for many more girls who come from that background? So Hamari Laado's mission is to connect those dots for so many girls. And that's why I say one girl at a time, even if we can do in rural areas, girls who study in government school, girls who come from low income background, Hindi medium schools. Right? So we do a lot of program, we do scholarship program, we do a running based program where we kind of make sure girls grow up to become confident. And you can see the technology, sometimes it feels like the distance is getting reduced, and sometimes it feels like distance is growing more, right? The people with access will keep going to so many more newer platforms, and people with not will have much harder time. So I feel like that's where this whole thing came from. So it's very personal, it's very it comes from heart, and it's also very it's in the spirit that I'm not looking that, oh, tomorrow we'll change everything for everybody. No, we want to do it till the time it feels right, it feels good. We connect with communities, we connect with right people, we do it in the right way. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of this thing. And that's how even the book came about. I thought it's important to write. I mean, it's a classic Indian experience. This book is captures experience of so many of Indians, but it's still a little different because the Indians from that part of India is still probably not making where I was, or the world where
Mm-hmm.
I was. Yeah,
Why do you think that the dots connected for you and maybe not your neighbors? Why do you think that way?
such a great question. There's so much, such a body of research on that topic itself. The dots connect for one, and then the next door neighbor. And my next door neighbor was my uncle, my dad's younger brother, and he left school after fifth grade. He became alcoholic. He would beat his wife, and his kids didn't even pass eighth grade. And my
Yeah.
father, he studied and he went to that school 5 kilometers away, walked to that school after fifth, so he put that effort, and over time he became a teacher, and he was passionate that my daughters will grow up and they will study and they will become something, right? So that one person's passion, it kind of just changed the trajectory of our lives. And then dot connecting, there's so many factors that play a role. Language, I mean, we are talking in English, so there's some good thing about it, but there's also so much bad thing about it. Why have we made a language for which you give an MBA exam? Okay, I'll do an MBA degree. What will I do? I will sell shampoos, I'll sell toothpaste, I will sell clothes and undergarments and whatnot. That's what FMCG and retail and all of them, right? You
Right.
really need an exam that's based in English? It could be as a second language, but it doesn't have to be, so you kind of exclude a whole strata of society from even taking part in a big part of economy in some ways, or at least the elite positions in that economy. So I would say it's a colonial mindset that we can let
Mm-hmm.
go. So we have to look really closely to say what are the points that become, instead of connecting dots, become the point that stops people's journey, right? Not having schools. Right now,
Right.
of course, it's changing. We have school till 12th in every village. When you don't have school till 12th, after 8th, if the next school is 5 kilometers away, parents will not send daughters 5 kilometers away. Right? So if you can't open school in every village, that means half the population will not get to study beyond a certain point of time. So there's so many points, but when we generally look in one person's journey, they have to have one adult who's really passionate about making them successful, and you'll see that in suburbs of Chicago, suburbs of Detroit, any difficult neighborhood, you need to have one mentor, one person. And for us, that was my father, and that's the only reason.
Prem,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
you who has to take the ownership. Someone will give you a direction, but then ultimately
Absolutely.
you moving from village to town to city to a bigger city to the most successful country in the world. It's you who has ultimately done that with still a strategic vision from your father, maybe.
Uh, so, which is such a, in some time it's good to believe that way, right? But
Yeah.
when we look at other factors, there are a lot of it that goes in when you talk about people's success. One
Mm-hmm.
is your parents, then the kind of emotional support you get. When I was looking to move I got admission at University of Michigan, and I was talking to my dad. I was 25. Most people told him, you need to get your daughter married instead of sending her to America to study, right? So it's not just like your vision, it's the emotional support. And I told my dad,
True.
no, if you won't let me fulfill my dreams, who would? Like, right? So there's a lot that goes in. So I feel like a person can get there only if there are multiple tiny dots along with the
True.
big dots. You have the right mentor, you find the right person, of course you reach out, you make effort, but it's also the other side also. So it's not just one person's kind of effort. I'm sure Bill Gates had a lot in his family that sent him to that school, or they had that socioeconomic level to do that, or
Right.
so now when I see a lot of these girls from villages whom we sponsor after 12th grade to pursue an education which they otherwise could not because they don't have monetary support, but it also how much dedication their parents have. Instead of sending her to go work in the farm to pick cotton in breaks in winter, or in summer to go cut wheat or whatever, they're sending her
Yeah.
to school. They're prioritizing her long-term success. They're betting on her long-term success instead of that 400 rupees she might get today working on it. So they're just the individual is also made up of so much of the system he or she is part of, which is what leads to
Absolutely.
success. Yeah.
Very rightly said. Very rightly said. I think I know you're craving into getting into the book. Just one question.
Well, I'm not at all, honestly. So please keep going.
I I I so,
Mhm.
Hamari Laado. Why this name
Yeah.
first? And different age groups, you have a different, what do we say,
Intervention.
approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very keen to know the middle grade school children. The
Mhm.
how has their the physical activity, the
Mhm.
running
Mhm.
has brought in that mindset, that growth mindset in them.
Sure. So Hamari Laado, Hamari means our. And the
Yeah.
reason to put our word that I didn't want it to be it's my mission. It's a collective journey. It's collective for the entire society. Parents are doing so much, governments are doing so much, teachers are doing so much, and we want to become part of that. So for me, it wasn't me against you all. It was collective. So that's why word Hamari, our, and Lado means beloved daughters. Lado in Rajasthan and in this
Mm.
belt or even in India, we call some daughters when we call them with love, we call them
Yeah.
Lado. And I thought it's very apt because the northwestern part of the country, where you see the gender ratio extremely skewed, has suffered thousands of years of invasion and fighting and whatnot, and that cultural response has led to the situation that it is. And
Hmm.
how do we change that from a place of love and from a place of wanting to create a better future and a better place for them? So that's where it came from. It was a collective, a group of us sat together and we discussed and we kind of landed on that. And it really speaks to people, it kind of makes them part of it. Um, the program. So the first one was definitely, I was very clear, the age-wise intervention. We realized the for the first time there's school till 12th grade in Rajasthan in villages and happened some 7 years ago. So
Is it
girls, yeah,
7 years ago?
26, 2016, 2017, yep. The country was free for 60 plus years and we didn't have a school that taught till 12th grade. 70 years, 70 years actually. So that happened in
Okay.
2016 or 17 in Rajasthan. The parents who had never gone to even school or the mothers who had not even studied till fifth, their daughters became the first generation to even complete high school. And otherwise, what happened if you have school till eighth, you get married after eighth. If you have till 10th, so for the parents, this generation, they become first generation. And what we want that we want to create success role models out in that
Hmm.
community. So in one village, if we can make sure one girl succeeds after 12th grade, it's going to create a ripple effect. you know so that was the purpose of our first program, Giving Circle. So we sponsor girls and we sponsor into programs that are skill based, like nursing, vocational, sports education, educational diplomas, kind of, and that they can do in their area and get into jobs, private or government. So that's one program. But I was very clear, this is like, you walk on the beach and you throw the fish into the ocean and that's how it feels. And it's so I realized to change it, we need to do something at a much younger age. And we're helping, one girl in a village. We're not helping the entire group, that class of 2025 who graduate that year. So what we said, we at younger girls, we started a program called Neve. Neve as a word means foundation. So we want to make their foundation so strong that as a group, when they go into 10th and 12th, they are much more confident of what they want and they have the energy and effort and strength to achieve that. And that's our running program. So we do 10 weeks program. We teach a lot of skills, and along with that, they run. So those skills are tested in running. And at the end, they do a public 5K. And we don't see girls running in doing public 5K anywhere in India. Forget villages, not even in cities. So for us to create that space that we have it in villages, it's been amazing. And right now we are looking to take it into a research mode and kind of measure the impact that it's creating on their educational attainment, because they're first generation to even study 8th or 10th. So how do, and the research says they don't do it, first generation kids struggle. So maybe program like this can help them. So we are going to do some research along with that. um, but one school, we asked them, their experience of the program they've been doing for 3 years, and they said we never had girls take part in sports. For the first time, some 36 girls took part in sports, and some 6 went to state levels. So I think it's going to bring change. It will bring change. I know for sure it will. but I want to take it to research so the world can look at the data and say, yeah, we know it worked on this, it worked on this, it worked on this. From kids and girls and teachers in school, we know. I mean, to give kids that freedom, and when they do a 5K, and when the people in the village or community see it, it's such a palpable change. So that's it. And then in the middle, the kind of 10th, 11th, we want to do more like a career counseling. But I want to have role models with them girls can connect. If we have English speaking to people who sit in the cities and who've not lived their life and experience, that there's that disconnect. So I want to build that program. I've not been able to build it really well because I want to create a network of mentors who come from that kind of background, and that's how they can get motivated to know what careers they can choose. So there's more work to happen on that, and we'll do that at a later point. That's for kind of grade 10 to 12. But the running is for younger girls, 5th, 6th, 7th, like middle school, elementary and middle school.
You
But see,
amazed
this
us.
is this is among
Yeah.
those rare occasions where even though this is a book show, I'm not really inclined to go towards the book right now. We can keep going on and on trying to get all the learnings and really get to know your experiences in doing this. But given that it is a book show, we will have to go and talk a little bit about the book, but hopefully
Sure.
try. And the good thing I think we understand is the book is aggregation of a lot of your experiences, memoirs. So we want to just try and understand a little better what this book is about.
So here's the book. Borders, Bridges,
Thank you,
Belonging.
us.
And the
Super.
proceed from the book goes to Hamari Laado. I wrote, it took 5 years in writing. I started 2018 and finally was done 2023. So we published it just, it's kind of brand new.
In July, I think you had your
Yeah, July.
launch
So
in
yeah,
July.
we had launched. Yeah. So we just did it. The reason was same. I'm sitting in US, leading a $1 billion business for a global company, a global industrial company. I'm not even an engineer. And that moment, you absolutely realize you're an absolute outlier in that sense. Just borrowing the word that Kaustubh used, and the dots just connected for one person, and there's no reason to connect, for that to happen. Um, so, and I realized I don't want to go any further. The experiences I'm going to have in this role, there'll just be more of that. And I'm content with this, and I'm willing to just let go of this. And the experiences I want to have is I want to give next, few years building what I always wanted to work on. And if it doesn't work, then I'll figure out. I'll go sell engines again or shampoos. Who cares? But I'm going to give this. So that's how Hamari Laado came about. And writing was just I wrote because I had achieved whatever I wanted, or beyond. Let me say beyond. 2002 is when we moved to Jaipur, and the MBA was not. The word was not in my dictionary. America was not even part of dreams, or like. So that just happened. Destiny leads you to some places, certain experiences, and you have it. So for me, writing, I felt like my life was complete in the sense that it gave me way much more than my mind, my imagination could reach. So for me, writing this was the reason that we can't put all the burden on girls to, scrape through. The society on the other side has to make effort. And I thought maybe through the story they would understand what a journey it looks like when you come from villages and small towns and Hindi mediums, and what does it take? The generation that suffered partition, the ones who really lived it. So I feel like one person, one family's life changed, and my mission is, in a way, I can call this book an absolute success from based on that. So for me, it was maybe our generation who's achieved so much, before we forget our roots, maybe this book will give a sense of belonging, a connection. And the title came from that place, this journey that started from borders, that for which, my parents crossed so many bridges. Our whole generation's parents crossed so many bridges. It's not just, I think, of course, I can say because I come from that far, but even if you've grown up in any smaller town in India, parents cross so many bridges to give their kids a better life. And now for us living in this kind of globalized environment and with tools where we see the entire world on Instagram and everything and LinkedIn, where do we belong? Where do we find that sense of belonging, and how do we stay part of that? Sorry, a long answer to your small
No, I think you
question.
should keep
No.
going. We can hear this all day long. So you brought up two very important points. One was a sense of belonging, and two was the sort of environment that you came from. I come from Haryana, which is not too far away from Rajasthan in that sense, and shares a very similar gender disparity. My grandparents, I just talk about my grandfather, comes from an armed forces background. He really went against all odds to step out of that village, work really, really hard to get himself the education, build that platform, and then get wherever the family is today. So that was probably that connecting dot, I would say. But to make an impact on one girl, I mean, you can actually help out one girl, but to actually spread that message and to make everyone part of that one girl's journey. Because typically, what tends to happen is in rural areas, you have this tendency to pull people down. So it's like, oh, why is her daughter getting this? Why is that kid getting this? Why is my kid not getting this? How is that family who I know so well doing so much better than me and my family in these situations, circumstances? So how are you not just helping that one kid, but also empowering or enabling spreading that powerful message that this is not just for that one kid, it is for that wider community, for that wider village that you're doing this. And this is for their good instead of picking just one kid and focusing on that. So,
It's great. It's a perfect question.
okay.
And here's my take. I know this, and I'm going to say, how do we use it? If the tendency is people look at, oh, their daughter did this, right? So if she's become a teacher, why isn't our one becoming, right? So I want to use that same thought process. So when we say we want to create role models, we want to change norms, we say every community where there are first generation girls who are completing 12th grade, help one girl succeed. It will immediately, everybody in the neighborhood will say, we want our daughter to succeed, right? So use that very well.
I,
Fantastic take, sure.
I,
Thank you.
I would want to read out one of the feedback that either on LinkedIn or on Goodreads, either of these places, and this was the most amazing feedback that I read about your book. It says, um, "Borders, Bridges, Belonging is a must-read for any of us who want to give back with gratitude for the journey we have traveled, for the people who have believed in us, and for those who are counting on us."
That's
Does
very
does it
sweet. I don't remember. I haven't read that one. Oh, that's really nice.
does it encompass what you see in your book? Does it encompass that the reader has actually grasped from your book?
I think they've done a better job than in wording it than I would do. You know, the author takes 80,000 words to say what somebody can say in 80 words, right? So yeah, that's the whole purpose. There's a sense of gratitude, and that's why you map the journey. People who crossed borders for us, people who became bridges for us, and how do we become a bridge to the generation that is growing up right now? How do we become part of that?
So, Bridges, Border, Belonging. You have stayed in all the cities, all the in the US, and came back after Hamari Laado, because Hamari Laado it's I think 3-4 years old now, right?
Yeah. We incorporated 2020, July 2020. So
July 2020, and you launched your book in July 2023. So
yeah,
good month for you, I believe. How do you see July 2030 for Hamari Laado? How do you see that?
I haven't thought about the timeline, but in my heart, always, I just would love to see girls running in every part of country, see publicly running or doing this. And I sometimes think, when I'm old and if I'm traveling and I see a group of girls running, and whether I'm working at Hamari Laado anymore or not, but that culture of a group of girls getting together and running and being part of this program or this format, I just would love for it to reach every single village in our country. That's kind of my dream or hope or my heart's wish. 2030, I don't know what number that would look like.
Yeah. So maybe one last question before we get into the next round. It comes from me. You have seen a lot. What is your perspective on of current Indian female generation? I mean, and I
Mm.
just want to try to give me an answer from your grandmother's perspective, from your mother's, from yourself, and maybe your niece's perspective. I mean, how are they seeing it?
My grandmother is a unique person. I would I would see that much. I don't know if that came through from the book or not. So I don't think she represents every single woman, but she has some things that are very much of that generation. She's fearless. She says what she like. She eats what she wants. She can have the body she wants to have. In some ways, she lives a much liberated life than us, right? Or at least I would say, much more joyful life. Um, there were struggles, the economic struggles and the social struggle, but somehow she's managed to keep the joy in her life. I feel like my mother's generation, I would say, a lot of them worked really hard because they were that generation who had to become a bridge, and becoming a bridge is not easy. And I see that in a lot of mummies of our generation, the diseases
Very
they
true.
got and the struggles and health and keep up with the in-laws and raise kids for the modern world and husbands jobs, and they studied some but they couldn't have their own job. So that mother's generation stretched a lot. They didn't have the friendships that my generation, our generation, got lucky to have, right? So they left their parents home, came to in-laws, and had whatever family, but not the kind of the liberties that we started to have in terms of being able to have friends, being able to travel, being able to call, being able to rant about things. Some of that our generation got. I feel like our mother's generation missed that. I feel like this generation and the next, the gap between rural and urban is, I feel like, a little bit getting bigger. The ones who live in urban areas and they're working and their struggles are a little bit different, and the life and the life you see on phone and the what you want to live. So kind of there is that versus you see in rural areas and smaller town, that is still different. They've got our mother's generation, and then they've got some freedoms and friendships and travel and some of that.
Prem, fantastic. Your book Borders, Bridges, Belonging is available on all the platforms. Of course, when this episode is out, we will share all the links where people can directly go to and buy this book.
Been absolutely phenomenal having you here, Prem. I think your words of wisdom, your experiences, your journey, your initiative, Hamari Laado, is fantastic. We wish you the very best for that.